Okay, true or false? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Just ask rice and just ask the plants. Hundreds of people all over the world have recreated Dr. Emoto's experiment with the rice. Taking 3 jars of identical rice, and over a period of time, to one of the jars speak loving compliments to it, another jar completely ignore it, and the third jar speak mean or condemning words to it. Over a period of time, it's been recreated time and time again that obviously words matter. And we've all heard the studies and seen the studies about plants, that if we speak lovingly and kind to it or sing to it, that they'll grow faster and more beautiful. The scientist way ahead of his time, Dr. Nikola Tesla, said, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Have you ever walked into a room and could literally cut the tension with a knife? Or have you winced when someone called you an offensive name? Or how about the mood completely changed when someone cracked a joke or spoke words of love and affection? That's the language of vibration. We are vibrational beings of energy and light. Every word we speak, thought we think, and emotion that we feel carries with it a certain vibration that enters into our energy field and affects ourselves for better or for worse. It's long been documented that our bodies emanate these energetic patterns. That's how the EKG and EEG machines work. We can measure these patterns, and then medical providers can interpret it to see if it's in flow or if it's been damaged or disrupted. Eastern medicine philosophies have long understood this concept and mapped out a lot of the major energy centers. The most well-known ones are the chakra systems, our auric layers, and the meridian fields. Now, the chakra systems are known as major wheels of energy corresponding with different endocrine glands. And if they get disrupted or disturbed, it can lead to physical disease in those glands. So our energy systems are very sensitive to all of the vibrations around us. Literally, who you're sitting by is affecting what you're thinking and feeling. Dr. Candace Pert, she was working on her graduate degree at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine in the area of pharmacology. So she was studying how chemicals and drugs affect cells and then how that affects your body. She came up with some really cool discoveries. She's actually credited as having discovered the opiate receptor, which is where endorphins and all of the painkillers land to work their magic. She has published over 250 scientific discoveries and scholarly works on peptides, neuropeptides, and neurotransmitters. And basically what those are chemical messengers that get released in the body that kind of help the cells and all of the organs communicate with what's going on. She speaks about how psychologists work on the mind and forget the body, and how medical providers work on the body and forget the mind. They aren't two separate things. They're one thing she calls the mind-body. She also discovered that when she looked at certain chemicals or drugs, well, each cell has different receptors on it. And so those chemicals or those drugs would land on the receptors, and then the cell would release a whole cascade of messengers on to the rest of the body. She noticed when she was doing this that emotions had the exact same effects as drugs. And she also began to notice that the cells, skin, tissue, wherever it was in the body, became storage houses for memories and for emotions. So putting into practical terms some of her findings, let's say that you were in a car accident or some other trauma, like you went through a really bad breakup or a divorce. Each cell in your body, as you're going through this trauma, literally gets imprinted with all of that emotion. And then it just stays there. It's unhealed, and it just festers. And then a month later, something happens at work, and that gets stuck there, and then something else happens. And so our bodies, from childhood to now, is just full of all this stuck emotion everywhere. And a lot of us don't know what to do with it, so we just ignore it, and we suppress it, and we stuff it more and more and more. So we have that option. And if we keep doing that, then eventually down the road, a year later, something will spark or trigger it, whether we smell something or see a picture, And then our cells release that emotion and we go through it again. And we suffer anxiety and insomnia and depression and physical illness that result in it. When our body is full of all those things, our vibration literally lowers, and this can decrease our immune system, which can lead to physical disease. But we can be courageous, and we can take the time to decide we want to heal, transform ourselves. So we can retrieve, reform, release, or transform those experiences and literally remove them. And we'll talk about that at the end, how this can be done. Dr. Bruce Lipton, he taught anatomy at the Stanford School of Medicine. He was pretty dang cool. So he's studying about stem cells. And stem cells at that time, it was thought that once they divide and replicate, they're always identical to the parent cell. He was going to prove this and document it. So he had a huge petri dish full of these cells. And he decided to take some and put them in a completely different environment, and another in a separate environment, and a third in a third environment. And so when he went back, he expected no change, but he was astonished, and so were his peers when he discovered this. Some had turned into muscle, some had turned into different forms of bone, and some had turned into like heart cells. So his discovery meant that we are not victims of our genetics. Instead, he coined the term epigenetics, that we are literally above our genetics. We are the master, controller, and creator of our lives. He said that DNA is controlled by signals outside of the cell, including energetic messages that emanate from positive and negative thought. Another thing that he discovered was that if he had some sick or diseased cells, instead of giving it medicine, if he just took it out of that environment and put it in a healthy environment, it would heal itself. Because of these discoveries, he literally had to walk away from the scientific community and from atheism. So whether it's in the field of cellular biology, psychoneuroimmunology, energy psychology, all of these new and emerging fields, they all are coming up with the exact same conclusion, which I think is pretty dang cool. So if we change the words you speak, it changes the thoughts you think, which changes how you feel, which will change brain activity, which changes your DNA, which can change your physical body. So that's all great and fine, but how does that really relate? Let's bring it to a practical, real-life example. So I'm a nurse practitioner. I specialize in hormone balancing, particularly with patients that suffer from chronic fatigue, adrenal fatigue, autoimmune diseases. But in my office, I see a myriad of different conditions. And so I want to take you through 3 case studies and let you decide for yourself if these things can be related or not. So my first case study is of a 75-year-old female. She comes in. She says, a year ago I was diagnosed with 2 different types of thyroid cancer and diabetes. Looking at her thyroid cancer, here's some of the emotions that could have led up to that. Swallowed anger, humiliation, not speaking her truth, not having your own way. And then with diabetes, she really did long for the past and longed for the husband that she had been married to previously. Deep sorrow, no sweetness left, feelings it should have been different. So you can see that there's just a different way of starting to think about disease, that you can't really treat the physical without the emotional, but I'll let you decide. The second case study is a 35-year-old gentleman that came to me with prolonged chronic back pain for a long period of time. And I asked him, well, what was going on in your life when the back pain started? And he was a rich lawyer, but he was doubting having gone into being a lawyer. And he said, I wish I would have chose something that I could make money quicker and easier, because this is a lot of work, what I'm doing. And so we can see that when somebody has chronic low back pain, a probable emotional cause that could correlate with that is feeling unsupported financially, experiencing fear where money is concerned, wanting to back out of something. Case study number 3. A 65-year-old female comes to me, and she had one of the worst head colds I had ever seen. And she goes, Sarah, do you think that my emotions could have caused the cold? And inside I'm clapping and like, yes, somebody's intuitive, somebody gets some of this stuff. I said, well, the golden question, what was going on when this all happened? She said years previously she had gone through a really bad divorce, didn't know how to handle it, adopted a cat. The cat became her saving grace. When she got remarried, she didn't really like her stepkids, and they showed up unannounced to stay with her. The cat was really shy, wouldn't come in the house, got injured, and left, and she hadn't seen him since. So this is a perfect example of what Dr. Candace Pert talked about. The cat being gone triggered all the emotions of the divorce that hadn't been dealt with. And so she had anxiety and depression resurface, and then a really bad cold, which goes along with unkind feelings towards something, confusion in the home, confusion in life. So I'll let you decide. Here's some other ones. How many of you in the last week, by raising hands, have had constipation? Just kidding, do not raise your hand. But I want you to think, just maybe a mental, there are a lot of physical reasons that you can have constipation, so you should go to your medical provider and have a thorough workup. But just to think outside the box. Maybe you're resisting the flow in life. You never know. So if you're interested in learning how to heal yourself, there are so many different ways to get started on your transformation or healing journey. The first thing is, do you love yourself? How many of you can look in the mirror and be like, you are awesome, I love you? 3 years ago, I couldn't do this, and I laughed when somebody said, that's where you need to start. And the reason I laughed is because literally I couldn't look in the mirror and be like, dude, I like you. It was kind of like, oh, I'll just look down here. But now it's like, oh, cool, my best friend stared back at me. I'm kind of cool. You know, if you get to that point, work on it every day. The second thing is, it's okay to be a Pollyanna. Watch your words. High vibrating words are like hallelujah. Low vibrating words are swear words. What you say does matter, so reframe those thoughts. What's the negative self-chatter that's going on inside? When that happens, yell, cancel, clear, and say something positive. I am statements are very, very powerful. I am confident. I am awesome. Something like that. My favorite healing modality that works so incredible is EMDR. This is rapid eye therapy. It's the #1 treatment for PTSD, rape survivors, any type of abuse, any type of just life. Control studies have shown that there's a 90 to 100% reduction in symptoms just after a 50-minute session. And this one you can't do alone. You do need a trained practitioner to help you. But literally when you blink, it activates the memories and the emotions in the cells and releases them through your eyes. There's a whole science and there's way more technical than that. But what it does is it doesn't get rid of the memory, but it neutralizes all of the emotions that you felt inside. It's the fastest, deepest healing you'll ever experience. You leave feeling full of light, so courageous, and just your self-esteem returns. And the second most favorite thing is self-mastery technology, which is this thing right here. This morning I went to work and was super anxious, and luckily I have really cool friends at work because they're like, do an SMT, duh. I was like, oh, yeah. So I went to the back and actually listened to 2 of them. So this is like a little mini session of rapid eye. So you put the headsets on, and right here, it flashes lights. So it gets your eyes moving and it releases that way. And then the headset, there's dual voices. When we get stressed out, our brains only operate either in the right brain or the left brain, but we want to get the hemispheres to connect so that we can get back to the subconscious mind and retrain it. So after listening to this, I was like, why didn't I do this earlier? All the anxiety was gone and the confidence came back. This has helped me in the past a lot with insomnia as well. I encourage, if anybody's serious about transformation, finding an energy healing counselor. There's all sorts of things like acupuncture, meditation, tapping, craniosacral, things like that. So you have your choice. Either we can continue to just let those emotions fester and stay unhealed, or we can change our perceptions and work on transforming. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. If you have any questions, I'll be sticking around to answer any of your questions. And if you wanted to know any sources, I left my bibliography off, but I can give you those.